Hi guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Rosie and today I'm going to be showing you 25 photographs side by side using the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So I recently bought the 12 Pro Max 2 or 3 weeks ago, not long ago, and I'd kind of seen videos online talking about how amazing the camera was. And before I got it for myself, I believed it, but I think actually taking photographs side by side myself, I can really see a huge difference between the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So I really wanted to put a video together and just kind of show you side by side photographs so that you can make your own decision as well as to whether you think it's worth it or not. Because obviously it's a lot of money to spend on a phone, it's a lot of money to spend on basically upgrading your camera because a lot of the features of the phone are still the same. So I really wanted to show you side by side and maybe talk through a little bit each photograph, but I basically want to leave it up to you. Have a look and see what you think. So I went to Wynwood the other day with my husband. I vlogged the whole thing using my GoPro Hero 8. I'll leave it linked here if you want to watch that as well. But whilst I was there, I took some photographs and then I went to my pool this morning and took some photographs this morning. So I've kind of got some photographs to compare side by side. Now these haven't been edited at all. They haven't been colour graded, they haven't been edited in the slightest. These are literally just shot out of camera and then uploaded onto here. So I'm going to go through one by one. So this first one here was in a restaurant in Wynwood called Uro. The iPhone photo, I think you can see a lot of the glare coming through the window on the left hand side and also over the door where the black door frame is. On the iPhone 12 Pro Max it's black, whereas on the iPhone X it's kind of fuzzy because of that light coming in through the window there. Also, if you notice the plant in the corner, you can see on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you can actually see the plant and the plant holder in the corner of the room there. On the iPhone 10 photograph, it's kind of just dark and you can't really see that. As well, if you compare both of the menus, you can kind of see a lot more in the 12 Pro Max than you can with the iPhone. Yep, so that's the first photograph. The second one here was not with the portrait mode, this was just a standard photograph. I think the bottle is a lot clearer, the text is a lot crisper and clearer, but also the background is a lot more bokeh and blurred out with the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So if you look at the Reese's Puffs on the iPhone 10, you can read that pretty well. On the 12 Pro Max, you can't really read what that says, and that's just because of the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Another thing to point out is the lights. So if you see the lights on the iPhone 10, you can see the streams of light coming out of each light bulb in the ceiling. Whereas on the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it's nice, it doesn't have any of that kind of light leaks or, I can't think of the word, when the light spreads across the photograph, you don't get that in the 12 Pro Max. So that's a couple of differences I've noticed with this one. So this photograph was taken with the portrait mode on both the iPhone X and the iPhone 12 Pro Max. So it's just a nice one to kind of compare the bokeh in the background and the colours as well, the amount of detail, things like that. This next one, there's not a whole lot of difference. I would say the main differences is the light bulb again above the hungry sign. You can kind of see the light leaks across the photograph. Other than that, there's not a huge difference with these two, honestly. So whilst we're waiting for our food, I took a quick selfie and I think here you can see a huge difference. So the iPhone 10, it's quite blurry. Honestly, I never really noticed how blurry it was until you compare to the 12 Pro Max and how crisp and clear that is. Again, with the light behind, you can kind of see behind my hair, it's just a little bit fuzzier, it's not quite as sharp. My eyes are super bright and sharp, even my skin texture, that might be a good thing or a bad thing. I actually don't mind and I actually really enjoyed that. But yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think the differences are and which one you think is better. I definitely prefer the iPhone 12 Pro Max with selfies. I think the difference is crazy. So this next photograph was taken zoomed in. Now on the iPhone 10, that means it's just zoomed in 2 times, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it's zoomed in 2.5 times. So that's the difference you're seeing there with how close Jeremy's face is. This is my husband Jeremy. But again, the quality of the photograph is just insane, the difference. Like the light in his eyes and the sharpness of his eyes, it just does not compare at all. The background as well is a lot brighter. I feel like the photographs on the iPhone 12 Pro Max are generally brighter, they're sharper, they're crisper, but also if you have any kind of backlight or side lighting or anything that might be a little bit hard for the phones to deal with, the iPhone 12 Pro Max absolutely smashes it out of the park and the iPhone 10 really struggles. Another thing to notice here is the colours. So obviously with the iPhone 10, it's kind of orangey and kind of darker, whereas the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you still see the pink in his skin. I think the colours are a lot more true to life. So again, with this photograph, I zoomed in. So the iPhone 10 was zoomed in 2 times and this iPhone 12 Pro Max was zoomed in 2.5 times. And again, it's brighter. I think you can see more detail. I feel like it's just a nicer photograph on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Then we went for a walk outside and took this photograph. I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max caught the sun a little bit on the lens. So that's why I get that glare on the side there. But otherwise, if you compare the brightness of it, if you compare, I think the floor where the shadow is, I feel like with the 12 Pro Max, there's less contrast between highlights and shadows. I think that's what works really, really well. Whereas with the iPhone 10, the shadows are quite dark and the highlights are quite bright. Yeah, let me know what you think about this comparison. Moving on to this photograph, we went to the pub for a drink. If you're in Miami, this is the only place in the world I drink beers. I recommend you going there and getting a Ludo Sour. It's delicious. But this photograph was not taken with the portrait mode. This was just a photograph just taken. Again, things to notice is the background is a lot more blurry on the iPhone 12 Pro Max. The colours are just brighter and they pop a little bit more. There's a lot more detail and sharpening on the iPhone 12 Pro Max photograph as well. I think if you look at the windows on the right hand side, on the iPhone X it's just completely blown out, it's just white, whereas on the iPhone 12 Pro Max you can see some details there in the windows. And generally I think the iPhone 12 Pro Max again is the better photograph. Now this time I tried taking the photograph of my beer using portrait mode. I know the angle isn't completely the same, so it might be a little bit hard to kind of compare, but if we look at the glass, I still don't love portrait mode, I'll be honest. It's not as good as DSLR. I think if you're not a photographer, it's amazing because it's something you've never really, it's a lot better than not portrait mode in that sense, but for me as a photographer, I hate the fact that the corners of the glass is kind of fuzzy and blurry and the bottom of the glass is out of focus. Like, it just drives me mad. So portrait mode is not something that I love anyway. But I do think that the iPhone 12 Pro Max probably wins this one as well. I think it's just better overall. And then, so now we're moving to photographs I took today. So I took this photograph of the flowers, and I think this is a really great example of how the iPhone 12 Pro Max shows colours and determines the colours in the photograph. So the iPhone X photograph is quite dull, it's quite grey, it's quite dark. Whereas the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it's nice and pink, it's got that lovely pink hue to the photograph, and it's brighter. And like I said, these haven't been edited at all. I just feel like the 12 Pro Max picks up the colours a lot better than what the iPhone 10 does. So with this photograph, I think it's a really great example of how the iPhone 12 Pro Max has a really nice bokeh on normal photographs, like not the portrait mode photographs. So I focused on the green leaves on the right hand side of the photograph. With the iPhone 10, you can still pretty clearly see the light on the wall at the back, whereas with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, it's a lot more blurred out and more bokeh, and I think I prefer that look. I prefer when something is in focus in the foreground, and then the background gradually gets more and more blurry with the bokeh. So again, I think the 12 Pro Max wins here. I think the colours are nicer, I think the contrast is nicer, and I think the background blur is also nicer. Now this photograph, I didn't notice a huge change. I feel like the colours are slightly different, the colours of the blues. Apart from that, you probably wouldn't tell so much which one was which. If I was to show you both of them, I don't feel like you would be able to tell which one was the iPhone 10 and which one was the 12 Pro Max. So I think for photographs like this of just architecture or just wide photographs, I feel like the iPhone 10 and 12 Pro Max are pretty much on par with each other. I think they're pretty level. That's my thoughts on this. Let me know what you think, obviously, in the comments below as well if you disagree. Moving on to this photograph, I believe this one I used portrait mode. I wanted to see how the chairs would look in the background. Again, not a huge difference. I mean, I feel like with the 12 Pro Max, the chairs in the background are more blurred out. Again, the angle isn't exactly perfect, but you wouldn't tell. I think if I had these side by side, you would not be able to tell me which one was which. So therefore, I think this photograph is pretty even. I think they've done a pretty good job there. Again, this next photograph, not a huge difference. The colours are slightly different, the blue in the sky and the colour of the building. I feel like the 12 Pro Max is a little bit more grey blue and the iPhone X is a little bit more purpley pink. Let me know if you can see that as well, and the floor as well. So the colours are slightly different. I don't think I have a preference here. I think they both look equally good. So again, I feel like anything architecture wide, you can't see a huge difference. Then I tried a couple of selfies. So this one was just normal photo mode. Again, I think where the 12 Pro Max does well is with the contrast and with things in shadow. So I think my face is lit better. I think the colours are better. The contrast is better. I much prefer the 12 Pro Max. And then I took a photograph using the portrait mode. Again, I'm not the biggest fan of portrait mode. And you can see my hair up here. So some of these bits sticking out are blurry in both photographs. The background is blurry in both photographs. Not a huge difference. The building in the background I think is more blurry in the iPhone 12 Pro Max. Otherwise, not a huge difference again. I mean, yeah, I mean, in terms of like my face is brighter, there's less contrast in the shadows, things like that. The iPhone 12 Pro Max would win this, but it's not a complete write-off. I feel like both of these are pretty even. So moving on to this one, I feel like this might not be a fair comparison because I'm not sure the iPhone 10 photograph is actually in focus. Maybe I moved when I took the photograph. But I'm looking more at the leaves behind in the backdrop, and I feel like the green leaves on the 12 Pro Max, again, a lot more blurry and soft than in the iPhone 10 photograph. Yeah, not a huge difference again. Moving on to this photograph, the sky is a kind of different colour and the building is a different colour as well. The iPhone X is a little bit more pinky purpley, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max is a little bit more blue-green toned. Let me know again what you think, which one you think is better. I don't think this is crazy, honestly, especially with Lightroom. You can kind of do editing anyway if you want to make your photographs more pink or more blue. That's an easy fix, but there's not a crazy difference here. Moving on to this photograph, again, not a crazy difference. I feel like the leaf on the iPhone 12 Pro Max is kind of deeper green. You know, the highlights of the leaf don't get blown out so much as they do on the iPhone 10. Apart from that, again, not a huge difference. Now with this photograph, again, I think if I showed these side by side, I don't think you'll be able to tell which one was which at all. There's no difference, honestly, especially, you know, if you're, I think especially if you're taking photographs for Instagram, for example, there's not going to be a huge difference in some of these photographs. There are some coming up that there is a huge difference, so just bear with me one more second. Again, this one, not a huge difference. This one was zoomed in, so the iPhone 10 is zoomed in 2, and the iPhone 12 Pro Max is zoomed in 2.5, so it's a little bit more zoomed in, but in terms of the colours and the textures and the contrasts and all, you know, there's not a huge difference again. However, this is where it gets interesting. I took two photographs next. So this is my husband Jeremy when he was working, and the light behind him from the window on my left here was blaring through the windows, and obviously with the iPhone 10 it really struggles to focus on his face. There's a lot of the kind of light from the window coming over his face. There's a lot of blur there. There's no detail in his t-shirt really. You can't see his face at all. And then with the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you can see his face, you can see his t-shirt. There's not that light blur across his face. The whole room is a little bit more orangey toned and yellowy toned. So it's crazy the difference. Like, it's funny how some of these photographs there's not much difference and other photographs is like a crazy difference. This is one of the ones where it's a crazy difference. Like, it's so, like I said, it's not edited at all, but the difference in this photograph is crazy. And this is the last photograph. So if you look at the lens of the camera, on the iPhone 10 it's just black, it's just darkness, and on the iPhone 12 Pro Max you can actually see a little bit of writing on the lens there. That's the main difference that I found. Again, the lighting, do you see how behind the camera on the iPhone X, it's a little bit blown out, the sky there, just a white patch, whereas in the iPhone 12 Pro Max, you can see the sky. You can also see my windows are really dirty, I need to clean them. But yeah, so that was all 25 photographs that I've taken using both the iPhone 10 and the iPhone 12 Pro Max to compare them side by side. Now, obviously, one of the main differences is the iPhone 12 Pro Max also has the wide angle view. I didn't have that in this comparison because I obviously didn't think it was very fair to compare a wide angle versus a not wide angle. So I'm going to do a whole video talking about the iPhone 12 Pro Max versus the GoPro Hero 8 in terms of wide angle photographs. That will be coming very soon, so make sure you subscribe for that video. But please let me know in the comment section below, which photographs did you prefer? Did you prefer the iPhone 10? Do you prefer the iPhone 12 Pro Max? Do you think it's worth upgrading to the 12 Pro Max from the 10? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Let's have a conversation. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you very soon. Bye!